That's what Trump's done. He's created a grand coalition
Yes,
of people
exactly.
who may not like him and may not agree with all his policies. I'm at the opinion the hero that's going to save us, we do not know their name yet. They're out there and they're working towards it. And there may be a backbench politician, there may be someone who's joining a party right now or setting up a new party. The hero is there. I don't think we've heard of them yet.
As far as I can see it on the right, there seem to be two competing heroic forces at the moment, or at least people whose supporters view them as heroes. The first is Nigel Farage and Reform UK, and the second is Tommy Robinson and the Uniting the Kingdom movement. Now, of course, Tommy Robinson is currently behind bars. He's considered completely unpalatable by the establishment, unpalatable by the mainstream media, who want to erase this guy from society and try and lock him up. Nigel, on the other hand, has decided he's going to almost veer towards the mainstream as a way to take over the establishment and finally smash the two-party system. Do you think Farage or Robinson could be the heroes, one or both, or are we looking for someone else?
Until the hero becomes the hero, we never know who that person is. It could be either of them, but more likely it'll be neither of them. I'm at the opinion the hero that's going to save us, we do not know their name yet. They're out there and they're working towards it. And there may be a backbench politician, there may be someone who's joining a party right now or setting up a new party. The hero is there. I don't think we've heard of them yet. But if Farage and Tommy Robinson united, and I don't mean in a special deal, I'm just talking about if one of those two people could pull the other one towards them in some grand coalition. That's what Trump's done. He's created a grand coalition
Yes,
of people who
exactly.
may not like him and may not agree with all his policies. But if he said to, the Tommy Robinson supporters that you guys are welcome because we're going to have one of your people as a spokesperson for these issues. And we're going to get someone who believes in saving the environment, but is not a nutcase to do this, and start pulling intelligent, clever people together and build a grand coalition. So it's not a one-person party. It isn't the Nigel show.
Because where do you, I mean, you know a lot about Reform, Nick, from a personal perspective. I mean, you were part of Reform UK. Have you turned off the party in some way, or can you talk a bit about your personal experience there?
So I stood for Reform UK 4 years ago. They were a couple of weeks old, and I wanted to stand for Mayor of Greater Manchester. And Richard Tice was on TV going, and we're a new party. And I thought to myself, you've not got a candidate for Greater Manchester Mayor. So I texted him, he got back to me, and I stood for them. And then I stepped away from Reform. You couldn't even join Reform at the time. They were so new, they didn't even have a membership base. And then I've stood several times as an independent. I've not fallen out with Reform. I think doing some great work. I Where do I stand now? The truthful answer is I don't know. I'm going to spend this Christmas now, deciding what is my next step. Do I look at Reform again? Do I join Reform? Do I not? Is there another party out there? Because I'm getting older now. I've probably got one or two more elections in me. I either make a stand now or I don't. And not making a stand isn't an option.
And are you worried about what some people see as Nigel's tack to the centre on issues like mass deportation, issues like not worrying about demography, issues of Islam, that sort of thing?
Do I see that as an issue? I don't see it as an issue today. They're not my views. Hence why I think we need a grand coalition. Because to beat Labour and the Tories in the next election, it takes more than some good PR. It takes more than Nigel being a good leader and a great speaker. It takes more than that. We've got to bring other people to the party. So Reform could have somebody as a spokesperson who's more along those lines of mass deportation, and then they take the flak. But yeah, I mean, I don't see how reform can go forward and win with this fairly soft approach on mass migration.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? But I guess what Nigel would say is just look at the polls. And I mean, we've got a new one here, just out. And what's interesting here, Nick, is that Reform are now below Labour, but just 1 point below Labour, but ahead of the Conservatives. So, whatever way you look at this, Nick, Reform has the momentum in British politics. And there are a couple of other things that I wanted to show you to get you to respond to as well, because there have been reports by Bloomberg that some Tory and Reform branches have held talks about unofficial pacts at May's local elections to unite right-wing voters against Labour, discussions about each side standing down candidates in certain wards. But Zia Youssef, the chairman of Reform UK, was incredibly clear on this. Let me be crystal clear, there will be no pacts. And then Farage has really turned on Kemi Badenoch, the new Conservative Party leader. I think for good reason, actually, but I just want to read you out what he has said specifically. I am watching the Tory backbenchers as Kemi Badenoch gives another average performance at PMQs. There is almost no enthusiasm for her at all. They are in much deeper trouble than they know. And this is what he was criticised for, though, where he said Kemi has no idea of what she is doing, no feel for the country, and no presence of delivery. And of course, it's those words, Nick, no feel for the country, that people are now hounding Nigel on, saying that's somehow racist. Of course.
Kemi Badenoch refers to herself as an immigrant. She stood up in the House of Commons several times and referred to herself as an immigrant. She didn't move here till she was 16, even though she was born here. She left straight away. So has she got that feeling of the country? If this wasn't the country you weren't raised in, so that's a fair point. Did he mean it the way it sounded? Who cares? Who cares anymore if he's called racist, if he's called this? Because it doesn't matter what he says or does, he's going to be called a racist, a Nazi, a fascist. And I think Nigel needs to take a leaf out of Trump's book and stop trying to play for the mainstream media, attack the mainstream media, embarrass them, stop playing their game, stop trying to be the Tory party he wishes the Tory party was. Tory party is gone, they're done. He has to be careful because at the moment, the Tory party don't have to do anything. At the moment, the Tory party is going to win the next election because it's their turn, because Labour replaced them, Labour doing badly. It's obvious Tories always replace Labour. It's up to him to win the election. It's up to him to show the people that he's not the Tory party. He's not just a different version of the Tory party, because we're sick of all of them. They've all taken us to bankruptcy. So we don't want any of them. He needs to show the country he has a new vision, just like Trump. Nigel Farage is a very clever man, obviously. I'm hoping he's got a plan. I'm hoping it's slowly. Let's get to the May elections. We'll do really well. Trump will be in office, and then our agenda comes through then.
I really hope so. That's what I keep thinking, Nick. I'm really thinking about that. I think I have a lot of trust in Nigel that even though at the moment he is absolutely tacking to the centre, that it is part of a softly approach. He knows what he's doing. He knows this is a long campaign. And I would say Nigel, deep down in his heart, actually feels a lot stronger in a lot of these issues than what he is advocating for publicly. But I totally agree. I've said it a lot. I want to see more of the Trumpian approach from Nigel, certainly when it comes to the mainstream media, who he seems to think are somehow going to turn around and treat Reform fairly, which is just never going to happen.